Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Random Episode. This is the podcast where we watch a random episode of a TV show from a random series that neither of us have watched before. I'm Varin.
And I'm Christie.
And as always, thank you, Lars Jesus, for that opening intro. Now, this week, we're talking about Degrassi, the next generation. And we have to say it's the next generation because there are multiple iterations of this show, as I've seen in my research.
Indeed.
This was Season 3, Episode 16, Take on Me. This one aired February 9th, 2004 on CTV, which, if you are unaware with Degrassi, this is a Canadian show, hence CTV. And the episode summary from IMDb says, Jimmy, Sean, Ellie, Toby, and Hazel land in Mr. Radich's Saturday detention. Despite their different cliques and different styles, they come to realize the similarities between them and decide to work together to get through their detention. Now, Christy, what did you know about the show before watching it for the second time?
So, first of all, I knew a lot about Degrassi, and when I was in high school, I think I wanted nothing more in life than to be able to watch Degrassi. Like, I knew about it.
You knew about this in high school.
I knew about it because it was on cable. I can't even remember what cable channel it was on. It was not Disney Channel, but it was like really similar to Disney Channel shows.
I think it was Teen Nick.
Maybe something like that. Regardless, as we've talked about before, did not have cable. So people were talking about it. Like, my friends could watch it. It was out there. I desperately wanted to watch it, but I couldn't because I didn't have cable. So
Damn parents.
I've literally been waiting my entire life for this moment to watch an episode of Degrassi. So thank you.
You are welcome.
Yeah. What about you?
For myself, only reason I know about the show, or at least how I learned about it, was obviously Drake, a.k.a. Jimmy.
Jimmy, okay.
Because he's the most famous person, I assume, to come out of the show, at least, if not Canada.
I think, well, okay, that's a little Celine Dion. I don't know, there's a lot of famous Canadians. I would agree as I was kind of looking through the cast, and it's a gigantic cast. Mm-hmm. Really nobody else stands out. One of the girls, Ellie, she was later in an episode of Schitt's Creek.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you recognized her, but that was it. So yeah, I think Drake is, I would say, the most famous.
Yeah. I think, Schitt's Creek, also a bunch of Canadians too, right?
Yes, because Schitt's Creek is a Canadian show. Yeah, so I guess it tracks. But I don't know. I guess in recent times, like, more and more people are making the connection between Drake and Degrassi. Like, I feel like it's been talked about more and more, right?
I don't know about, definitely back when Drake was becoming famous in the late 2000s, that's when I learned about Degrassi. And because, there's a reason why, folks, that we chose this show. Because of everything that's been going on between Drake and Kendrick. We are recording this just a few weeks after Kendrick's epic performance at the Super Bowl halftime show. And, Kendrick just bodied Drake after a whole year of this. Well,
okay, I don't know what's going on. So, listen, I'm going to be honest. I'm not really into, like, what's happening in the rapper world, I guess. So, like, I don't even know. So, I was like, yeah, let's watch Degrassi, mostly because I wanted to watch Degrassi. And you were excited about it because of Drake. But, like, can you tell me why? Like, why do we care about Drake? Like, I watched the Super Bowl halftime show. I watched the Grammys. Like, I kind of get it. But, like, why do I care about Drake?
So, Drake has a history of having beefs and with other rappers.
Like post-Degrassi.
Post-Degrassi.
Not while he's on Degrassi.
He may have attempted back in high school when he was in high school to do beefs with other people, but if I didn't get anywhere. But because my 20s, our 20s, was really defined by Drake, music-wise, because he was a 2010s. So many of his hits came out in late.
Why can't I think of any of his songs?
Oh man,
I would know
Dance
them.
And
okay.
He's a whole bunch.
I'm sure if I heard one, I would recognize it.
He has 10 million hits. He's one of the most streamed.
Really?
Yes, he's still one of the most streamed artists on Spotify.
No, I exclusively listen to Taylor Swift, so I just genuinely am like, I don't know any of this. Okay, I'm sure I would recognize songs.
Yeah, you would 100% recognize songs, right? So, and as someone who in his 20s to go dancing at the clubs, his songs are everywhere.
Okay.
So, and he has had beats that go back a long time. One of his most famous ones was with Meek Mill. And if you're familiar with that rapper, Meek Mill,
No idea.
they used to be friends. They then started having beef with each other. They also, very similar what happened with Kendrick, had, would release rap battle, well, not rap battle, but like mixtapes, dissing each other back and forth. And Drake ended up winning that one.
How do you win?
You just have the last word and you have the best rap that they can't respond to.
As decided by who? The public?
The public, the people.
Okay.
So
Sure.
that one was famous. But then Meek Mill went to jail.
Oh.
But then he was like, not wrongfully, just like his sentence was so long, and he became friends with Robert Kraft, owner of the Patriots. And then now essentially Meek Mill's been vindicated and he's out of jail, and he and Drake became friends again.
Oh my God, this is a very lengthy, deep past.
Oh my God, yes.
There's so much that I don't know.
And Drake has had beefs with other people. But then yes, fast forward to 2024, between him and Kendrick.
Okay.
There was just a lot of dissing going on. And I forgot who started it. I think it was Drake who started it. And they had a lot of back and forth, but it all ended with Kendrick's epic Not Like Us song.
Yeah.
Which came out, I think, in the summer of 2024. And Drake had no response to that.
Okay. Gotcha. And now, of course, the Super Bowl, he's kind of like...
Yes.
He looks like an idiot.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. When did he become Drake? Like the name? Because in Degrassi, that's not his stage name. Like his, when they do the opening credits, that's not his name.
That's a great question. I think
he had a different name.
His rise started in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So it had to have been that time period.
And then he when he became a musical artist, changed his name to Drake, maybe.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because that was noteworthy. When it was doing the opening credits, I was like, "Who's Drake?" And then I was like, "Oh, it's not his name."
But on IMDb, right? On IMDb now, it does say Drake next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's fascinating. Drake did just recently, I believe, he just dropped an album just a week or two ago.
Oh,
I haven't listened to it yet, but
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure I'll hear it in a workout class or something at some point in time. Who knows? All right. Well, I appreciate that backstory on Drake. I've been hearing about Drake, Degrassi, I hear about that connection. So, all right. I'm glad we got to see it. So should we explain my situation of how I had to watch 2 episodes?
Yes. Do you want to explain it? You go explain it.
Yeah. So we really wanted to watch Degrassi because of Drake. And so we were like, okay, we'll pick a season that we know Drake was in that season and watch the episode. I watched first and I watched the whole episode and was like, he wasn't in it. So
it's like, whoops. We tried to do the random episode. Okay. We tried, folks.
So we broke the rules a little bit for today. And I now have watched 2 episodes of Degrassi. Same season. So honestly, it didn't really, I don't know. I have a little more backstory for Ellie because the episode I watched talked about it gives the backstory to what we saw in this episode. So I know a little bit. But what I'm realizing and what I did realize about Degrassi is because the cast is there's 20 characters. It's a huge, if you watch the opening credits, right? It's 20 kids.
Yeah, so many people we did not see at all.
Yes. So what I'm gathering is each episode focuses on maybe 3 or 4. I mean, in this case, there were 5, but there's a handful of kids in each episode. So you never know who you're going to get that episode.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Which I don't know. Do I like that? I don't know. I feel for continuity, as I was kind of flipping through then episode descriptions to make sure who's in what episode, it didn't feel like there's a lot of continuity in this show as a whole. It's just now we're going to look at this kid. Now we're going to look at this kid.
That actually explains a lot because this runs like a soap opera, not like a normal show, right? Because normal shows back in the 2000s, back before seasons were capped at 10 episodes, it was, you'd start in September, you air in September, and you'd go pretty much until May or so. Pretty much on there and have the summer off. What I noticed with a lot of these seasons is they go from September to August. They are a year-round season. So that I can see how if they're going to focus on different characters, they can make that longevity work.
Right. Not every kid has to work for every episode. So they can give them breaks and time off.
Unless they have different rules in Canada on child actors and they're just forced to work all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, let's be honest. I didn't look it up, but some of these kids, quote unquote, were definitely over the age of 18. But like I think some of them were young. So that maybe played into it too, of like some of them were kid actors.
Yeah, for
whereas
sure.
some of them were, I don't know that for a fact, but some of them looked a little
They
older.
did look, yeah.
Some looked older than others. So I don't know, but that's what I'm gathering from my watching of 2 episodes and doing some scrolling is like maybe like more like a soap opera. Like it's just like ongoing, like you never know what story you're going to get.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah. In this episode, let's start diving into it, shall we? Mm-hmm. Again, we've already, in the summary, already described who's going to be in the episode. Jimmy, Sean, Ellie, Toby, Hazel, and Mr. Radich. And the only other person that's missing is a teacher named Simpson, I believe.
Yeah, like Mr. Simpson. Sure.
Yeah. But it's very small cast. And to know the plot really is just go watch The Breakfast Club. Because that's all this was.
This episode is like shot for shot a condensed remake of The Breakfast Club.
Right.
And at first you're like, is it? And then the more each scene happened, it was like, oh no, literally they have just ripped off every scene in The Breakfast Club. But like it had to be 20 minutes and less dark and less intense and less drug use. But yeah, it's The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
That's the summary.
Exactly. Even, people couple up and there's a bad guy, like a ruffian kind of guy who's misunderstood. Yeah, just funny, like almost 20 years after The Breakfast Club comes out, they decide to make a Breakfast Club episode.
And I have some questions. Like, this is a Canadian show. I mean, Breakfast Club was an American movie, but I mean, I don't know. People in Canada, I guess, watch American movies. So I'm like, did the Canadian kids watching this in the early 2000s know that this was a ripoff of The Breakfast Club? Or are the Canadian kids watching this just like, oh yeah, this is a good story?
I would imagine so. I feel like
I
feel like when we were in high school, Breakfast Club was a big deal because
Yeah,
it's about
I
high
watched
school
it
students.
constantly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you would be able to connect. So I would imagine that Canadian teenagers would know what the Breakfast Club is and
Make the
either
connection.
be tickled that this is just like the
Yeah.
Breakfast Club, or maybe see what that's a ripoff.
Yeah, and I guess why it makes sense with Degrassi is, again, like I'm gathering from the opening credits, the whole idea is they're following like kids of different types, right? Like it's all the different types of high school kids. It's like the jock kids, the cheerleader, the smart kids, the punk, like it's all the nerd,
Right.
like it's all the different types of kids. And so it would track that eventually they would have to do some sort of breakfast. They don't have to, but that they would do some sort of Breakfast Club, because it just like makes sense that they could easily put all their different types of characters together. Give them Saturday school, give them a dumb teacher administrator who's not paying attention to them. And it's a perfect recipe for Breakfast Club.
I bet that they ripped. I mean, again, having to go from September to August, I bet that they ripped off a lot of. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a 16 Candles type one and I don't know, maybe even a Goonies one. I don't know.
That's a great point. Okay, so within this Breakfast Club parody, so Hazel is the princess, and the fact that they're like, you're such a princess, that's literally how they referred to Molly Ringwald's character in Breakfast Club. So like clearly she's the Molly Ringwald. And then Jimmy, who's Drake, is like, I guess the athlete. He's like the Emilio Estevez.
Correct.
Like and then, I don't know, but then they kept like, the other kids kept being like, oh, you two are together. And then at the end, they do get together. But I'm like, were they together? That was a very confusing, like the Hazel Jimmy of it all.
I don't think they were together
confusing.
before.
Yeah.
They definitely got together after this.
Right. Like within this 20-minute episode, they went from maybe being friends. Like they knew each other, but they weren't, I don't know, like they had some sort of dynamic. And then 20 minutes later, they were kissing and in a relationship.
Yeah, come Monday, they were arm in arm and, they were together.
Yeah. So, which is a little different than Breakfast Club, because the Molly Ringwald and Emilio did not get together at the end. Like they were not the coupling at the end. So it's a little off. But like the idea of like in the real Breakfast Club, it's Emilio and Ali Sheedy's character who kiss. And then Molly Ringwald and Judd Nelson's character kiss.
That's
so
right.
like the idea of them coupling up is true to Breakfast Club. It's just they mixed up who is kissing who.
That's how they got away with complete infringement. Copyright infringement? I don't know. But
they're like, we didn't plagiarize. We mixed up who kissed who at the end. Obviously, that's completely different. But yeah, so then I guess now not Drake, Jimmy. Sorry, I don't know, Drake, Jimmy, and Hazel are together.
Yeah, they are together at the end of this. Diving a little bit more. So essentially, what happens is they're all here at Saturday detention for whatever reason. I don't even know why they're Saturday detention.
Well, Saturday school is a thing.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
not everywhere, but like sometimes.
Okay.
But again, I get the sense that it's never been brought up in this show before. It's like only there for this episode. For the Breakfast Club.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And they're all there for different reasons.
Just like Breakfast Club.
I think Toby's there because he was trying to cheat or change some grades for Jimmy. But Toby got caught and then ratted out Jimmy.
So Toby's the nerd. He's like the Anthony Michael Hall character.
Exactly.
But I guess he and Jimmy have a dynamic. Like if he was helping Jimmy cheat.
They must know each other.
But probably not friends because he's like a nerd and Jimmy's cool.
Yeah, they're probably
trying
to use each other in different ways.
That's true. They're just using each other.
Jimmy for his brains and Toby hoping to raise social status. Yeah. That's just what I'm going to assume here.
Yeah, okay. Which is a little, in the Breakfast Club, like the geek is like so far removed from society. Like they
don't even know who he is.
Yeah, they have no connection to him. So again, a little, this plagiarism is not completely plagiarized. Like it's a little different.
Yeah. And so that's why Jimmy and Toby are there. Sean, he's the bad guy.
Yeah, he's
not the bad guy. Sorry,
he's the Judd Nelson.
The Judd Nelson.
He's the quote unquote bad kid.
Yeah, sure. And he's there, I guess, for stealing.
I guess like that's his reputation, right?
Yeah, but he admits to it.
He does admit, like he is known, I guess, as like this bad kid who steals. I want to know what he's stealing.
I want to know too.
Like school property, or like he's like stealing jewelry from jewelry stores. Like what is he stealing?
I want to know too. What got, not only because it's only Saturday school. It's not much worse.
It's
like
gotta,
police are involved.
If he was truly this like diabolical thief, they would have to get the police involved. If he's like a known thief, or like even if he's stealing a lot of school property, like that is still a crime.
And what Mr. Simpson says later, which we'll get into more a little bit later, is that he even admits to Mr. Radish that what these kids have done, like, is it really that bad? Like, is things really that bad? Why we need to stop trying to control these kids, or whatever. What every high school student wishes their teachers would say.
Yeah.
Stop controlling me.
Which, I don't know. It was like trying to be Breakfast Club, but like not. It's hard to do Breakfast Club in 20 minutes. Like that's part of it. It's like it was a 20-minute episode.
And boy, did they try.
So it's just like a lot of like, how did we even get to this point?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the implication is like Saturday school is like so controlling. Like you're stealing these kids' lives and they didn't even do anything that bad. I don't know. Again, like I was a high school teacher. Like there is a line between discipline and like going too far. I don't know. It was just like, okay, I don't know. It's for the show.
Yeah, it's fine. As much as you're gonna get from a 20-minute show. And
oh god,
Hazel is there. She is hesitant to tell everyone why she's there. She comes up with excuses.
Yeah.
But eventually we come to find out that she clicked on a link which led her to a porn site, and she was interested. Sure. And she got caught.
I'm assuming she did this on the school computer.
I would assume so, too.
Which also, what is this, 2003?
2004?
Right? Like, it's not like today where all the kids have laptops. Like, this would have been in a computer lab.
Yeah, this would have been a computer lab, yeah.
They're tracking what you're clicking on.
So I can see that. I can see that. You're in a computer lab, you're checking your email, and you click on a link, go to a porn site.
Yeah.
And
I will say when I was teaching somewhere else, in maybe like, this is probably around like 2010, 2011, we had like the computer lab set up, and we had the technology where as the teacher, you could see like what was on all the kids' screens in the computer lab.
Oh, interesting.
And I did have a kid once like try to go to a porn site, and I was watching his screen. So like, obviously I had to like report him and whatnot. But yeah, so it's not that far-fetched.
It's not far-fetched.
Kids are pretty dumb.
Yeah, they're pretty idiots. So.
And like even today, again, like if you're on a school laptop or on the school Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi. Like they're tracking you. They still have the technology today where like even though they're on laptops, the teacher can still see and control like what they're doing on their
Oh,
screens.
okay, cool.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, but some kids are just dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. And Hazel just may be a dumb kid.
But I appreciate that. Like this is, like nobody's like judging her for the porn. It's like, yeah, live your life.
They all just have a
Great.
nice big laugh afterwards.
It's fine.
And then Ellie, I forget, why is Ellie in?
Listen, here's the thing about Ellie. She said it's for like skipping class. And this is never explained, but I think she's just there because she's doing a story for the news organization she's working for.
Oh.
Like I this is my hunch is that she made up that she got Saturday school and she just came because she's trying to get information about Sean for a story she's writing for her job.
And I will say that Mr. Radich did not check any list,
there's
didn't take attendance. Because if he did, he'd be like, why are you here?
Yeah. Or maybe she like purposely skipped class to be put in Saturday school.
Okay.
Like I think I got the sense that she wanted to be at Saturday school.
Right.
She brought a tape recorder. Like she's doing this whole undercover investigation of Sean, who's the bad kid, the thief, the stealer kid. So I don't know. That was my take is like she wanted to be there, but she's obviously just going to tell them, oh, I skipped school.
Oh, that makes sense.
I also know a lot of this because I watched another episode, as I mentioned. The episode that I watched, which was like a couple before this one, was a very Ellie-focused episode where she got the job. This is confusing about maybe it's a Canada thing, but I guess all the kids, they call it like a co-op, like have a job, maybe as like part of their, like it counts as a class or something.
Oh, okay.
Which isn't totally foreign. Like we do have things like that here, but it was like, it seems like at this school, it's like a thing. Like every kid has a job in addition to going to school. So in the episode I watched, she got a job at this like news. It's like it's not a newspaper. I think it's like a news station. Okay. So I guess now they need her to do a story. So that's what I learned about her and why she's here.
I mean, it's one thing for a news site to task a high school student with coming up with a story. I would just expect them to have to go make copies and get coffee. But to task them with coming up with a story that's going to be put on the news, that's
actually I hadn't considered that perspective. Yeah, like did they ask this child like please go undercover and record your classmates admitting to stealing for this job?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh my God. No, maybe she's just like going rogue. Because she also in the episode I watched was like really wants to get ahead in the news industry. So it's possible. I hope it is just that she wants to get ahead. And
she's trying to make a name for herself.
Make a name for herself. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I hope it's not that. I hope it's not that adults are telling her to like risk her. I don't know. It's not that risky, but it's still kind of messed up.
Yeah, that's kind of messed up. But anyway, so what happens is they get bored. They do a bunch of different activities, which there's some I do want to talk about. But just to summarize the episode, they do a bunch of activities, which culminates with them breaking into the elevator, which then allows them to find a path up to the roof. They go to the roof. They pair off, except for Toby.
The nerd is alone.
Of course. And they then get semi-caught scene. And they have to rush back to their individual classrooms, which of course they get caught. And then at the end, Mr. Radich has a come to Jesus moment about, these kids should just be home. He dismisses them. And then at the end, Ellie, while reaching for a camera from her bag, drops her bag, which then clicks on the recorder that she's had. As you mentioned already, she's here to record Sean for his piece.
Yeah.
Which they then all hear, and they all get upset, and they all storm off. But then the next day at school on Monday, Hazel and Jimmy, they're now a couple.
They're fully a couple now, yeah.
They've coupled up, and
they're nice to Toby.
They're
Toby.
Friends,
I guess.
Yes. And Ellie comes clean to Sean, says, I'm sorry. Here's the actual tape you want.
Which I thought he destroyed the tape. That was confusing.
I think she must have replaced the
tapes.
A
fake tape?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then, but tells him that what they had on the roof was real, was true.
Yeah, they fell
And
in love.
he like completely is like, okay.
Sure. I mean, he's a high school boy.
He's a high
She's
school
a
boy.
cute high school girl.
Exactly. That's into him. Yes.
She's into him.
Yes.
He's like, I
I
forgive you.
buy that. Most realistic aspect of this show is how quickly he forgives her. And they awkwardly hold hands. And that's the end of the episode. So,
Yeah.
some of the activities that they get into.
It's very Breakfast Club.
Very Breakfast Club. First one I want to talk about is their version of Truth or Dare. So, someone suggests Truth or Dare.
Yeah.
And they all go around and say if they choose Truth or Dare.
Yeah.
So, like, Ellie says truth, and Jimmy says truth,
Yeah.
and then Hazel, she says truth.
Yeah.
But they ask her why she's here, and this is at the point where she has not admitted why she's here in detention. And she goes, dare.
Yeah.
Instead. And then she gets dared to go and kiss Toby, which she does.
Which she does, yeah.
So, in my versions of Truth or Dare, it's not something like, okay, we're going to play Truth or Dare, everybody. And everyone just goes around the room until you find someone who does dare. In my version of Truth or Dare, it's always like, hey, Christie, Truth or Dare. You have to choose Truth or Dare. And
It's one person at a time.
exactly, one person at a time.
Right. Maybe it's a Canada thing.
It maybe it is. This one oddly upset me. I was like, this is weird. This is just weird.
It was weird that they all went around and said truth, but nobody actually got asked the truth until Hazel.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. Either it's a Canada thing. Listeners out there in Canada, please confirm if that's how you play Truth or
Please
Dare, or the writers are terrible. One or the other.
The other one I wanted to call out too was Mr. Radich. He shows up wearing a very funky disco type suit.
Yeah.
And every time we see him alone, they have like disco 70s-esque music playing. And then he apparently brought athletic clothes to work out in, because we then see a scene where he is in the gym with a giant medicine ball, which he calls a Swiss ball. And to the backdrop of, again, 70s disco music, he is working out in like short shorts and everything.
Which again is a choice. Like, this guy's job, he's getting paid, I would assume, to like be watching them, being the detention chaperone. And he's just like in the gym, dressed in an interesting way, doing exercises when he knows the kids could come see him.
Exactly.
Like, he's exposed.
Yes.
And even when Hazel comes, like, she sees him and makes fun of him.
Kind of checks him out. I wrote this down. I was like,
weird.
Is she like eyeing him?
It was super weird. That interaction between Hazel and him when she was, I guess, on her way to the bathroom, it was super weird.
So uncomfortable.
There was just like everything about, again, I know they were modeling him off of the teacher in Breakfast Club.
Exactly.
But like made it creepy and weird. Like, not just mean and stern. It was creepy and weird.
Exactly. Yes.
So yeah, that was an interesting one.
That was an interesting one.
Okay, what other adventures do you want to talk about?
The final one, which was just highlight just how Canadian this thing is that, and correct me if I don't remember this happened in the Breakfast Club.
Okay.
But at one time they decide to use a broom and a ball and dress Toby up, tape Toby up with a cafeteria trays to play hockey.
That is not from the Breakfast Club. There's other antics that are like kind of along the same lines in the Breakfast Club, but no, the hockey of it all does feel a little Canada. Yes, and they are like playing, which again, like, is nobody worried that this teacher is going to walk back in and catch them? Because he eventually does.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really do much. I mean, I guess at that point is when he separates them, maybe? I don't even know.
I guess maybe they just realize, they clearly just don't respect him.
Yeah,
and they
that's true.
realize that he probably just doesn't have any real power.
Yeah, that's true. Also, I don't know. Here's what, like, couldn't they just leave? Like, if they're genuinely, like, not being checked on, like, he's not keeping attendance, like, just leave then.
Exactly.
That's what when they showed Hazel going to the bathroom, I was like, oh, she's just leaving. Like, I really genuinely thought she was just straight up leaving. Which, like, what would he have done?
Yeah,
nothing.
exactly.
Yeah. Especially because the other teacher who popped in for, like, a few scenes, who just, like, happened to be coming to the building on a Saturday because he was coming back from cancer.
Yeah, my read on that was it sounds like he's been out for chemo
Yeah,
treatments.
yeah, yeah.
It makes sense to me that, well, you used to be the teacher, but it would make sense to me that he would come in on a day off
Yeah.
to get his classroom desk ready, get
Yeah.
reacquainted with everything on a day off in the
Yeah.
middle of the day, and then go back home.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't even know where I was going with that. I just lost my train of thought on Mr. Simpson because now I'm distracted by like, why did he come to school on a Saturday?
Well,
I don't
and
know.
for the story too, he also had to interact with Mr. Radish and be like, "Look, this is the best day I've been feeling in a long
That's
time.
true.
Life is too short. We need
That's
to
true.
cut these kids a break."
Okay. They needed him to help Mr. Radich like have a heart
Right.
and realize we could all be dying at any moment.
Exactly.
Let these kids go.
Exactly.
Okay.
Let them live their young lives.
Well, and then obviously the like big adventure they go on is to the roof. So yeah, which again, very like the walking around the building scene, like that's
Oh my
Breakfast
God,
Club, like
yes.
shot for shot Breakfast
Yes.
Club, and then like Jimmy ends up finding the janitor. How do we get the keys? And Jimmy's just like, they're right here. Like it's 2 seconds of
How convenient.
like,
The
oh,
custodial
here's
closet's right here.
Here's the closet that's unlocked, and here's a ring of keys that has the elevator key on it. Like, how convenient. Anyway, so yes, and then like on the roof. But again, it feels like by this point it's only been a couple hours. So, and for us watching, it's been like 15 minutes.
Right.
But like, so the fact that they get to the roof and then they do their coupling up, I'm like, this feels fast. Like, Jimmy kissed Hazel. Like, it had been like 3 hours. I don't know. Like,
Very,
it felt
very
fast
fast.
and aggressive.
Him simply defending her a few times against Sean was enough to win her over.
Yeah.
And
I mean, maybe they already like had a crush on each other.
and let's not forget, Jimmy found some nasty ass necklace on the roof. And
He picked it up from like the ground, like the stones of the roof.
and put it around Hazel's neck. I was like, that is disgusting.
So gross.
Disgusting.
Oh my God.
Wash that thing off first.
And she's like, this is so amazing.
Oh, she
That's
loved
gross.
it. And then they kissed, and then they joked about how she just kissed Toby.
What?
And
Yeah, like, I don't know. That whole thing was just so weird that she had just been dared. So she already kissed Toby, and now she's kissing Jimmy. I don't know. Like, what is this? An episode of The Bachelor? Like there's so much kissing going on after like 20 minutes.
Yeah, just like The Bachelor.
Literally, that's how I felt about it. But so then Ellie and Sean don't kiss, but they hold hands,
Oh, they do more than hold hands.
right?
She,
What? Oh yeah.
while they're lying on their backs, they keep being like this weird thing, like, "You're not. Are you scared of me? Do I freak you out?"
Yeah.
They're both like, "No, you don't freak me out." Then Ellie pulls down her sleeve, and the
Yeah.
camera zooms in to show like 3 scars because I guess Ellie cuts herself.
Yeah.
And that's like her reputation, and it's a true one.
Yeah.
And we see a close up of Sean, then his hand rubbing, caressing the scars
Yeah.
as he moves his way up to then
Hold her hand.
hold her hand.
Yeah. So I will also share that the episode I watched is when Ellie started cutting. So I also had a lot of background for this. Like when she at first was like had a rubber band on her wrist that she was flicking, I
Right.
already knew, oh, it's because like that's her replacement for the cutting. So the episode I watched, her life is actually really dark. So like
God.
this like reputation of being dark. I mean, first of all, she dresses like Avril Lavigne, like pop punk princess, like
2004, baby.
like very like the dark eyeliner. Loved her look. In all of my notes, I noted like I'm loving this Avlab look. Like she looks amazing. Like sometimes she's got like braids. Like she just I don't know. She's like fully going for that like kind of emo, kind of like pop punk look. So in the episode I watched, her life is very dark. Her dad is like deployed in the military. Her mom is like fully an alcoholic, like
Oh God.
constantly passed out drunk from like the episode I watched. So she has like no parents. Like she has to like lie to her dad and pretend everything's fine while he's deployed. But like actually her life is terrible. So that episode is when she started cutting, and then she like one of her friends caught her and like told her to go talk to the counselor, and I guess that's where she like started getting help. So it's actually like she does have a super dark storyline. So that's why it is, I don't know, having that context kind of helps. And maybe Sean also has like a previous episode where you see why he is the way he is. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I'm sure.
But I don't know. It like brings some humanity to like, yes, they were kind of like being weird about like, I'm so dark, but like they kind of both are. So
Yeah, they are a good match. And they're both
Yeah.
really into weird hand stuff.
It's yeah, the way that they were holding hands felt weird.
Yes,
Like we shouldn't be watching this.
exactly. The writers and directors are really into like hand massaging and hand
Yeah.
touching
Yeah.
by teenagers.
Yeah, which I guess, it's the innocence of, I feel like I remember holding hands with people. Like that was kind of a bigger deal back in the day.
But did you
Not
do
like
that in
that.
the middle of the hallway on a Monday
No, the way
morning?
that they did it was weird.
It was so weird because they like reach out and they slowly caress and they awkwardly or creepily staring at each other in the middle of the hallway.
No, that was weird, but I'll give them that like there is an intimacy about holding hands. The way they did it in this show was fucking weird.
Yeah. Agreed.
Oh my god.
I mean, is there anything else that we missed?
I think that's pretty much all the things. Again, like the moral of the story is go watch The Breakfast Club and then you'll know exactly what happened in this episode. It was very Canada. I don't know if it happened so much in this episode, but the episode I also watched, I very much caught on anytime they used the word sorry. Like they said it a
Oh,
lot in the
man.
episode I watched. They kept being like, sorry, sorry. And I was like, oh my God, this is Canadian.
Love
and then
it.
they said a boot, I think. Is it like a boot when they're like about a boot?
Oh man,
A
see,
boat.
I feel like
A
I
boat.
was waiting for a
Yeah.
Canadian accent slip up to come, or not even slip up, just like a Canadian accent to
Yeah.
pop out, and I didn't notice that in this episode.
There's a girl who was in the other episode I watched, Paige, and she said sorry like 100 times in the episode, and it was very
man.
like it was great. So yes, it wasn't so much in this episode, but I felt the Canada of it all in that one.
And the opening credit song, sorry, was interesting.
Yeah.
It was like a bunch of kids singing.
It was very Disney Channel.
Yeah.
It was like very of that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it zoomed around to meet the different
Yeah.
characters.
It was
of the
very
show,
like
so.
Lizzie McGuire, like Disney Channel type stuff. Yeah.
But it didn't feel as polished because it definitely seemed like a children's chorus, like an elementary school
Yes,
chorus
yes.
singing this.
It's not high quality. Also, like the production value of this show is like the bottom of the barrel. Like, let's be honest. Like, it took them 20 minutes to make the episode. Like,
Yes.
this is not a high quality production. So the fact that even the intro song sequence is low quality tracks.
I even noticed. I never noticed this stuff, but I noticed this one. Like when Hazel is in the gym and sees Mr. Radich, and the camera's on her face, and as she's walking, the camera is like jumping too, which means that they're not using like a track
No.
to make a smooth follow there. No, like there's a handheld person with a handheld, so like you were catching their steps too. It was so amateur.
It's
which
so low budget.
which is why I had to go and look up like how new is this show? Because I
Yeah.
thought this was like a brand new show. Again, we're talking about season 3.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you did this research too, but the Degrassi name or show concept, whatever, started in the 80s.
I did see that. Yeah.
So this is a series that's had
like- this is-
longevity.
this is
it's
like
had
the
multiple
revamp.
iterations. Yes. So this
Yeah.
is the next generations,
Yeah.
the new, and I'm just surprised. I was just shocked at how poor the production quality
It was
was for
so
this.
low budget, like
Yeah.
so. Which again, like that's very Disney Channel. Like a lot of the Disney Channel stuff coming out at this time, which I didn't get to watch because I didn't have cable, but I saw later when I got to college and got cable. But a lot of it was just like crank out as many of these movies and episodes as fast as possible.
Right.
Like, but low budget, low production value, like quantity over quality is key. So I get it.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. We just recently watched, because as you are well aware, one of my kids struggle to watch new movies, and we were randomly on Disney Plus, and we saw this one movie I'd never heard of it before. It's a Disney Channel movie, something about like windsurfing and aliens and parents getting together.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it.
Okay.
But we watched it, and my daughter wanted to watch it. I was like, oh, yes, 100%. Let's watch it. We
Yeah.
never watched new movies. And she liked it, but the quality was so
yeah.
so bad.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's literally about quantity over quality, like pumping out as many episodes as. But a lot of shows that
I
my
miss
kids
that,
watch
you know?
today, I do think it's maybe like a kids show thing because kids don't care.
Yeah.
Like I see in the background when my kids are watching stuff that's even on Netflix, which Netflix, as I've said on the pod before, usually has very high production. But a lot of the kids stuff, it's like who cares? Like the kids will just crank through these episodes, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it sounds like. So. I get it.
Yeah,
Don't put all your money and effort into the kids' shows.
exactly. Do the bare minimum for the kids to watch. So
Yeah. But the other thing I will say about Degrassi, like production value aside, is what I kind of remember, and then like going through some of the episode summaries came back to me, is like the thing that made it different was they actually tackled a lot of like heavy issues that like Disney Channel shows maybe weren't so much doing. Like they talk, like there's like a teen pregnancy, they're like they talk about sex, they talk about drugs, they like, again, Ellie's mom's an alcoholic, like she's cutting, right? Like they do a lot of these darker topics. It's kind of like afternoon special ish of like,
which, as you were describing Ellie's
Yeah.
situation, that story kind of reminded me of 21 Jump Street. So maybe this is more along the
Yeah.
lines of like a 21 Jump Street show than
That's true. It was
so
like
much,
21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it very, like the first episode I watched was very after school special. Like Ellie starts cutting and they just did it in such a low budget way that it was like, this isn't, like I didn't like feel for her as much because it just felt so fake.
Right.
But again, like we know it's heavy topics, it's like real issues. So I appreciate that they were actually trying to hit on these real issues. Just, I don't know, maybe production quality could have improved.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So how would you grade the acting quality then? Let's
Oh
move
my
over to
God.
that. So A,
Speaking of production value.
A being amazing acting, F being garbage acting. How would you grade the acting of the show?
I'm gonna have to go D. It's bad.
Wow.
What about you?
I didn't realize you were going to go lower than me. I went D plus.
Like it's basically the same thing.
It was so
It's
bad.
so bad. It's so bad.
All around, everyone was bad.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And again, it's not always the kid's fault. It's the production value is also really low, but it's pretty bad.
Again, we're in season 3. I would think that these kids would be, have found a groove, would be a little bit better. But no, everyone was bad.
It's pretty bad.
The adults, Radish and Simpson, they were bad.
The adults were terrible too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was bad. Okay. I'm glad
Okay.
we're basically on
We're on the same page. We're on the same page. All right, so going over to our rock rating, this is our representation of color rating based on the number of POCs in this show. This one I had to do some thinking about, and I think I'm going to have to go with a 6.5
Okay.
because, we do have only 5 kids and 2 adults, and of that bunch, only 2 were black, Drizzy Drake being one of them. But they weren't really the main characters. I guess the story is kind of, if there were to be a main character, it'd be Ellie, I guess.
I believe she is one of the mains. Yeah.
Right. And so Hazel definitely just seemed to be really a side character. Jimmy, in this episode for sure, was kind of just a side character. Didn't have a whole lot of lines.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just gave it a 6.5.
Yeah. The other episode I watched, Jimmy wasn't in, as noted. Drake was not there. Hazel was like kind of in it as just like a side character. But other than that, the other episode I watched was all white kids. I believe out of the cast of like 20, I think Jimmy and Hazel are the only black kids.
Oh, wow.
From what I saw. I think. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of kids in the cast. And I think they might be the only ones. I think, no, there's like a maybe Hispanic kid. There's maybe like a Asian kid, maybe. But again, it's primarily white. But this episode was, pretty good for that.
We didn't talk about it. So Degrassi is the name of the high school, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know which city do we see in the background?
I don't know anything about Canada. Like where?
I mean, I know
Quebec, Toronto, bro. I don't know anything.
I know Toronto. I know that there are a lot of Indians in Toronto.
Okay.
And Canada in general.
I don't know
but there are-
anything.
So, if this was in fact the suburbs of Toronto, I would be surprised they don't have any brown people on the show.
Yeah, but yeah, it seems like most episodes feature like the white kids. But again, I did see at least like elements of some of the other kids in there. And I will also say there's like some body diversity. Like one of the girls in the other episode I watched was kind of like I think she in an episode like becomes a plus size model. Like, so there's like a little bit of that type of thing as well. Like I think they, as diverse as the early 2000s was going to get, I think they were trying.
Okay.
Could have been better.
It is the early 2000s.
Could have been better.
Could have been better. All right. And finally, did you like it?
I mean, I can't say I didn't because like I've been waiting my whole life for this. Of course I had to like it. I did enjoy it. I thought it was fun. Like the way that I enjoyed other shows like this as a kid, I enjoyed it. Did I now satisfy my desire to watch it? Yes. Like I feel like, okay, I'm good. I got it. I'm good to go on Degrassi. But yeah, I thought it was fun. What about you?
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Again, given that you've been waiting your
been
entire
waiting my
life
whole
for
life for
this,
this.
I'm sure your expectations were very, very high.
So high.
And for it to meet your expectations, or for you to be happy with it,
that's good.
that's great.
Yeah, what about you?
No, I didn't like it.
This isn't your thing.
This was great for the podcast.
Yes,
because there's
yeah,
so much just fun stuff to talk
Yeah,
about. And
yeah. Well, and the fact that we happened to pick an episode that was The Breakfast Club, which is like one of my favorite movies of all time, is like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, of course I'm going to like this plot.
yeah, exactly.
I already knew it.
Yeah, we got lucky with that one for our second pick. But yeah, just overall, again, the acting wasn't great, the production wasn't great, and it was fun to make fun of. But
Yeah. And you know what? We finally got to see Drake
we finally got to
in
see
Degrassi,
Drake. Yes,
which is really all that matters at the end of the day.
and this is not the first. Well, I did watch. There was a movie came out in late 2000s. I think one of those 2000s were very popular for Indian actors to make movies about how their parents don't understand them and they have the non-traditional pursuits and passions.
Oh, okay.
And so there was one that took place in Canada about an Indian guy who wanted to be a hockey player, of course, and his family didn't understand. But in that movie, Drake was in it.
Oh.
And this is like right, I think, very early stages of his career. Like he was someone.
What's his name? Drake.
I think his name was Drake.
Oh. Wow.
So this is not the first, acting that I've seen of Drake.
Oh. You're just like a Drake aficionado over there.
I am.
Good to know. Well, I also appreciated the little lesson because, again, I don't know anything about him. So now I feel like I at least know more.
A little bit more?
More than I did. It was a
Good.
little lesson for me.
I'm glad. Because I am the preeminent expert on Drake.
Obviously, yes.
Okay. Well, if nothing else, then thanks for listening, folks. Remember to follow us on Spotify or wherever you're listening. And if you like what you hear, please rate us 5 stars. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Random Episode Pod. Finally, and most importantly, come back next week for our next random episode.
Bye.